Hey, good afternoon. This is the Tool of Farts. My name is Chuck.
I'm Lou. I'm the toothless one today. We were talking about that, and we got cut off, right? Because
Yeah,
this technology stuff's killing us.
yeah, because we're talking like a minute in, and I look up and I'm not seeing it recording anything. So, but at any rate, yeah, this whole podcast should be about how technology fails us every single time. But yeah, I'm real sorry that you had to get the dental work that you had to get done, and then the fact that you're gonna have to walk around with missing a tooth while you wait for everything to heal so they can do the implant.
Well, I'll tell you, very blessed. I will give a shout out again to the VA dental clinic at Data Point. Dr. Sal, my dentist, and Stephanie, his assistant. I'm going to tell you, I cannot be more pleased with the service I get in the clinics, and all of them are just really, really great, very friendly. That's one of the reasons why I haven't transferred to the 151 clinic, even though it's closer. I'm comfortable there. The people I associate with, I know them, and they get the person like the one lady who's our friend, always listens to our podcast. She's from Columbus, Georgia.
Okay.
She'll come out just like the other day. I showed her to Tina. She was waving at me like that when she was walking in and stuff. That's the way it should be. Every time you go see anybody, you should have that kind of service or reception. That's the way people should be.
I agree. If you're going to do it, at least try to have some fun, right?
Yeah. We're talking about some things. Let me give you a couple of comments made in 1957 that
Uh-oh.
I think is going to talk about, lead in some of the things maybe we're going to talk about. What happened? It says, I'm afraid to send my kids to the movies anymore. Ever since they let Clark Gable get by with saying damn and Gone with the Wind, it seems every new movie has either hell or damn in it.
My goodness.
It says, I read the other day where some scientists think it's possible to put a man on the moon by the end of this century. They even have some fellows they call astronauts preparing for it down in Texas. And here's what I like this one. Did you see where some baseball player just signed a contract with $75,000 a year just to play ball? It wouldn't surprise me if someday they'll be making more than the president. This last one. The drive-in restaurant is convenient and nice weather, but I seriously doubt they will ever catch on.
Oh, man.
Back to like we were talking about, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right?
Yeah, like I said, that reminds me of that line from the Who song. The more meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, it's amazing. So what are we going to talk about today?
So you've got some stuff, and because I think the direction we want to go is history, forgotten history, the people who made it or the impact of something that happened historically, as well as leadership, people in whatever industry it is or endeavor that they are or were in, their advice or the leadership principles or whatever that, or management or whatever that we can take from them to make our lives better. And so I've been thinking about this kind of like all week off and on, and sat down early this morning when I got up, and I'm like thinking about what to talk about, and then it dawned on me, it's the beginning of February, and I think it is Groundhog Day, but I don't even know what happened. I don't know what Punxsutawney Phil saw or didn't see.
Me either, been trying to figure it out. I haven't seen anything on it.
But it being Black History Month, and you being retired Air Force, me being retired Army, but working for the Air Force, this one group, because to me they always stood out, but growing up I never understood the how or the why and what made them so great, which is the Tuskegee Airmen. And it wasn't until within the last 20 years that they started making movies about them. And when you start to hear their story, you realize how awesome they truly, truly were. They started off at the Tuskegee Army Airfield.
Yeah, Tuskegee.
Yep, in the early feast. Let me find some stuff here. The field is named for Tuskegee's University's president, Dr. Robert Morton Field. They are an all-black fighter group, the 332nd, which originally consisted of 4 fighter squadrons, the 99th, 100th, the 301st, and the 302nd. And so from the period of 1941 to 1946, about 1,000 black pilots trained at Tuskegee. But what they were most famous for was the bomber escorts.
Exactly.
And I can't remember which movie it was in, but there was a line from one of the bomber crew because he was like, they're coming, they've never lost a bomber. Well, that's a myth. They had suffered some bomber losses when they were escorting. But let me see. So between February 1944 with the 12th Air Force, the flying air patrols over Naples Harbor and the Mediterranean Sea, in April 44, the second fighter group transferred to Ramitelli airstrip near Foggia in Italy, and they were tasked to escort the long-range heavy bombers from the 15th Strategic Air Force. So what is significant is their effectiveness and success is that they established an incredible and unprecedented record of flying 200 of its 205 bomber missions, escorts, and they have the lowest amount of bomber losses of any unit that they escorted. The 99th Squadron received 2 presidential unit citations for outstanding tactical air support and aerial combat. And one of the coolest things ever is Lieutenant Pearson from the 302nd. He used his aircraft's 50 caliber machine guns strafed a destroyer, causing it to explode and sink. A fighter aircraft had no bomb, just his guns, ends up causing destroyer to sink. How freaking badass is that?
Yep. When I was in the Sky Marshal program, the guy who was in charge of that was General Benjamin O. Davis.
And he was one of the original Tuskegee Airmen. He was a captain.
Yes, up it. And they're the red tail fighters, right?
Yes, they painted their the tail, pretty much the whole back end of the aircraft, because they wanted it to be bold. They wanted the enemy to know who they were when they came upon them.
Exactly.
Again, more boldness, the audacity, the balls that it took to be like that.
Yeah, and the leadership from all those guys is leadership is leadership. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. All leaders pretty much have those same qualities.
But what strikes me is, what did they have to prove? Because they were already marginalized and not seen as effective. There were people in the military that didn't want them to be fighters. There were people that didn't think that they could fight because they would be cowards and run away. All of this for a country that that point in history didn't want them, segregated them. The military wasn't even not segregated. It was still segregated at that point.
Exactly.
That drive, that leadership, like, where did that come from within to try to prove something to people that didn't care? Obviously, there were people that did and fought for them to be there, but they were up against everything. And then on top of that, an enemy that's trying to kill them.
Well, that's, as Americans, we all have those same values. And unfortunately, they were not given the opportunity or credit of what they could do and what they did do. You go back and read a lot about the things they did. There was one story I read once before. I can't remember now exactly all the details on it. But it was a fighter unit, something like the Battle of the Bulge. I'm not sure exactly what it was. They didn't want to send any people in there because they knew. But this black unit, I forgot the unit number now. So they put them in. And guess what? They went in and kicked ass and took names. And all of a sudden, it opens eyes up that these guys can do the same thing everybody else could. And they did it when nobody else wanted to do it. I forgot exactly where I read that story. Similar to those what I just said type thing.
I think you're thinking of the 760.
Could very be.
There is a road on Fort Hood, now Fort Cavazos. It's called the 761st Tank Destroyer. I can't remember the road.
Unfortunately, they don't always get to do, and I'm glad that we're starting to make more and more movies. Did you watch that movie series? It's been a couple of years now. They talked about the Tuskegee Airmen. They showed them all the way through the World War.
I've seen a few of the movies.
So, But
There was one called Red Tails. I can't remember all of the names of the movies.
yeah, but there were some real true fighting people. In fact, in Vietnam, in the area I'm from, the Seal, Phoenix City, Pittsview, Hurstboro area, people from Seal, Pittsview, and Hurstboro, Fort Mitchell, 7 people fought in Vietnam. 6 of them were African American. One of them was my best friend, Bruce Tyndall. That was for that little small area. You're talking about 3 or 4 little communities, about 500 people, about 2,000, maybe 3,000 at the most. 6 of the 7 sacrificed.
So what do you have for us today?
Well, we talked a little bit last week, and we were talking about Vince Lombardi. So I started to look up some people I thought were famous people and compare to see what kind of leadership qualities they had compared to what generally are considered the 7 best or 8 best leadership qualities of successful people, okay? So I came up with a couple of them. And I got some quotes from some I think, well, you're talking about Vince Lombardi. He said, it's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up. Winning is a habit, unfortunately, so is losing. All of these kind of quotes, when you start thinking about them, has to do with leadership. The harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. Think about it. If you work hard, then it's going to be harder for you to say quit or I don't think we can do that. And the greatest accomplishment is not in never failing, but in rising up after you fail.
I agree.
And then I got from Bear Bryant. When you make a mistake, there are only 3 things you should ever do about it. Admit it, learn from it, and don't repeat it.
It doesn't get much simpler than that, does it?
Oh, it does. And think about it. You made a mistake. Admit you made it. Most people don't want to admit they made a mistake. So the hardest part is admitting it. Learn what you did wrong and don't repeat it. Then the other thing is that the first time you quit, it's hard. The second time, it gets easier. The third time, you don't even have to think about it. Think about all the business aspects of what you and all these people, what I think about the people I've worked with and gone through. Jorge Garza, for example. These things we're talking about, fits all those leadership traits of some of the people, Maynard, Haskell Maynard. Then football changes and so do people. The successful coach is the one who sets the trend, not the one who follows it. And one of the quotes from him, if you believe in yourself and have dedication, pride, and never quit, you'll be a winner. The price of victory is high, but so are the rewards. And it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog.
I agree.
One of the other quotes from him is, the ingredient that separates winners from losers. No coach has ever won a game, but what he knows is what his players knows that counts. Then when he talked about team quotes, he says, I don't have to apologize for who I play. I'm trying to win the game. That's exactly what successful business people do, if you just stop and think about it. You don't have to apologize for who you play. You just want to win the game. Whether it's building people, building your business, or whatever it is. One of the other things he makes a quote from, he says, I ain't won but one game. My team won the rest in spite of me. What does that say about character?
Humble.
Yes, it is. One of the other ones that I really liked when I was looking at was Warren Buffett. It's not so much about what he has done as to what he hasn't done. With all of the demands on him every day, Buffett learned a long time ago that the greatest commodity of all is time. He simply mastered the art and practice of setting boundaries for himself. And he said the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. So how many times have you had to say no to something that worked when the position that you're in? A lot of times, right?
So I have to say no. I try to, say yes to things.
It's not the fact of saying yes, it's what you're saying no to.
Yeah.
That's what's important, that you're able to recognize and see things and visualize it. And that's some of the things we'll talk about in a little bit later, too. It went on to say, we have to know what to shoot for to simplify our lives. It means saying no over and over again to the unimportant things flying in our direction every day and remaining focused on saying yes to the few things that truly matter. You have 100 things. Out of those 100 things, there may be only 3 things that matter. Why are you going to focus on the other 97? And it takes a very intelligent leader to recognize that. When you invest your time in people, you want to make everybody happy, but you can't please everybody all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to learn how to say no to things that aren't important. Steve Jobs is another one. He said it's about focus. People think focus means saying yes to the things you've got to focus on, but that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that are there. You have to pick carefully. I'm actually as proud of the things we haven't done as the things I have done. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Very intelligent people, humble background and upcoming. Warren Buffett still lives in the house. He still lives in the house he lived in when he was growing up. $32,000 home. Still lives in that home. And that'll get to one of the other.
He still eats at the same little corner restaurant. He doesn't spend money like a billionaire.
And that's because saying seven things successful people say no to every day. They say no to opportunities and things that don't excite them, speak to their values, or further their mission in life. They say no to superficial networking events in which people swap business cards and never hear from another. Because successful people don't network, they build relationships.
That's neat.
Okay. They say no to spending with uninspiring, critical, negative people who drag them down. Time is precious. They say no.
I definitely don't want to be around negative people.
Yeah. Choose a small circle of people who will energize you and challenge you to be better. And that's one thing I respect about Jorge Garza. He challenged all of us to be better. You could say what you wanted to say. He allowed you to voice your opinion. It doesn't matter what you had to say. Then he'd challenge you on whatever you want. I remember one of the conversations that he and I had. He asked me to do something, and I did it. And he wanted to do something different. I said, then why did you ask me to do it? If you don't want to do it, tell me. We'll do it your way. But if you want to give me the opportunity, let's do it my way. He said, do it. If you fail, it's you. If you're successful, it's you. And that's what, and it turned out to be a good idea. It worked well for us. And from that point on, I changed my perception of him, and he changed his perception of me, because we're all on the same team. We all had the same goal. He was able to, and that's.
But that's rare, because ego always gets in the way, or almost always, yes, from one person or the other.
Yeah. They say no to overworking. It's true some successful people and many entrepreneurs put in 60, 80 hours a week. Very successful people aren't workaholics.
It's hard to, especially when you're like in the zone and focused and you're trying to get something done. But along those lines, I told you about this, and this goes back into the coaching thing. There was a special on Amazon. It's called Coach Prime, and I only saw like a couple episodes of it. But man, I was grabbing a notebook. You can ask my wife, and I'm just writing down everything he's saying, because it's just gold. And one of the things that it struck me like a lightning bolt, and I tell people all the time that, and I tell them that it was Coach Prime that said, he said, wherever your feet are, that's where you are, which means when you're at work, you're at work. And when you're at home, you're at home.
And that's exactly what this article is saying when they say no to overworking. They don't neglect self-care and family. They recognize that if they can't take care of themselves, everything else suffers. So you have to be where you're supposed to be, and when you're there. And he is a great example of a very successful person. He came from very humble beginnings, very successful in college, very successful in the NFL as a player. Now look at what he's doing. He's coaching. He is making a difference. And to see him mature in that process, from my point of view, is amazing. Because what I saw as a college player was a guy who was all about himself type thing. But you know what? There's a method behind his madness.
There was.
Yeah.
And it was getting in other players' heads.
Exactly. And now look how successful he is. I'm going to tell you.
Muhammad Ali was the same way.
Exactly. I was just showing something this morning about him and how successful he was as a fighter. You know, who believed and when as we going through all this stuff, all these people we're talking about have all of these traits, all these characteristics. If it had 3 steps, 3 rules of focus for success, write down a list of your 25 top goals, circle the 5 most important goals that truly speak to you. Those are your most urgent goals. Completely eliminate the other 20. You know, it's about focus. Why? How can you do 20 things? So you pick those 5. You got to think about what it goes back what you just said. Where your feet's at. You got to think about where I'm at right now, and how do I get that to the next level or to where else I want to go. Okay. One of the other persons I thought of is Walt Disney, the man behind the world's most famous mouse and most successful entertainment studio. Started his career as a newspaper artist in Kansas City. There he drew cartoons for a paper called Lifograms. Buzz with creativity and wit and stuff like that. He and his brother Roy put what little money they had left together and moved to Hollywood. Then they lost all the rights to everything they had. So guess what he did? Came up with
something else.
Came up with Mickey Mouse. Then what did he do after that? After 2 failed silent films, he created a sound-equipped short film called Steamboat Willie.
Boat Willie.
Yep. He exploded, and from there on, for the rest of his life, he put his creative to work producing, other things. And here's the one that, to me, that hits home the most. Is Sylvester Stallone.
One of my favorite actors.
And not only that, he's no better. He is perhaps the best example of a rags to riches story that ever.
For sure.
Here's a guy who lived in his car, who had to hock his wife's ring and stuff like that. While he was doing all this, he wrote this movie. This play. Then he took it to them, and they liked it. And they said, well, we'll give you X amount of dollars for it. And he said, no. He said, I want the money, and I want to be the star. They said, no, we don't want you to star. So he said, okay. So he took it someplace else. And after about the 3rd time, that had been refused, somebody was smart enough to say, okay, we'll buy it for X amount of dollars, and we'll make you the star. So where's Rocky at now?
It's one of AFI's top 100 movies of the American Film Institute. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And to think that he wrote that movie and it wins an Oscar. People, they don't remember the Rocky Sylvester Stallone. They remember, the 80s and the all of the Rambos and all of the, shoot 'em up movies and whatnot. They forget that he can be a serious actor.
Yeah, and when the studio agreed to pay him $25,000 and let him play the lead role. So what'd he do? He immediately went out, bought a dog back. He had hocked his dog, not hocked it, but he went to a place where you could sell it. And went to work, got his wife's rings and stuff back, and he went on to be one of the most successful actors of all times.
Isn't that his real dog in the movie at the pet store where he meets his future wife, Butkus? Isn't that the...
Yes. Having talked about all those people, now I'd like to tell you some of the things that's made him successful. Vince Lombardi, NFL championships, 5 and 7 years. Had a .750 winning percentage. Had a regular season 89-29-4 regular season record. Coach of the year in his first year coaching. He's known for his discipline, attention to detail, and focus on the fundamentals. Emphasizing teamwork, perseverance, and work ethics. Motivate players with passionate speeches. Isn't that what we all do if we want to be successful? Coach Bryant, 323 career wins, most wins by a college coach, still broken by Eddie Robinson. And we're talking about
the coach from Grambling.
Exactly. One of the most successful and actually was someone who Coach Bryant looked up to and admired. And you look at Warren Buffett, he's best known as one of the best investors in the world. In October 2024, his net worth is $147 billion, making him the 8th richest person in the world. Omaha, Nebraska. He still lives in the first home he bought. His childhood was fraught with struggles. He was raised in a broken home, often shuttled between foster homes. His parents divorced, further shaking. I'm talking about Stallone, Sylvester Stallone. He was one fraught with struggles. He was raised in a broken home, shuttled through foster homes. Parents divorced. Despite these challenges, he still had a deep-seated passion for acting. He may have gone on to become one of the most successful, but the path to success was not easy for him. He suffered a complication during his birth that left him with a slight droop on his face and a minor speech impediment, which led to bullying at school. And that's why you see in the movies sometimes all those facial expressions. There's a reason. Walt Disney was successful through innovation, diversification, and focus on quality innovation. Disney was a pioneer in animation. He was also a futurist who experimented with new filming and theme park. He expanded his company's portfolio to include theme parks, television shows, quality. His core values include optimism, family values, and attention to quality. He never lost his childlike sense of wonder. All right. Now, having said all that, all those people, here's some habits that all those people have in common. And I'm going to say this not to embarrass you, but I went through this list because I think you're very successful. I think my daughter, Christina, is very successful. 2 different career paths in life. I'm extremely proud. When I get through, I'm going to ask you which one of these qualities you think you've. I'm going to make that face smile a little bit and embarrass you a little bit and make it turn red. 10 habits. Organization. One of the most frequent mentioned habits in sexual life is organization. It takes planning as well as setting priorities and goals. And as a leader, that's what you got to do. Relaxation is you got to be able to relax. Relaxation comes more easily to those who are organized. So perhaps for some time it's more of a natural byproduct than a conscious decision. Taking action. Third on the list of successful people is an inevitable action habit. It's important to organize, to plan, and to set priorities, but without action and plan, there's nothing done on potential. Personal care. Personal care with regard to diet, exercise, and hygiene comes next on the list of those who are successful. Positive attitude. According to many successful habits, positive attitude is not just a result of it, it's one of the root causes of success. If you're not positive about it, how can anybody else? If you can't exhibit that positive attitude, how is someone else going to respond to it? Networking. Successful people know the value of exchanging ideas with others through networking. They also know the value of collaboration and teamwork. So networking is going to happen. But you know what? You got a team around you who's probably more valuable or just as valuable as they are. And they have some great ideas. And they just have to have somebody to listen to or somebody to bring them out to make you think about that process. Okay? Then frugality. Frugal is not the same as being stingy. Frugal is a habit of being thrifty with money and resources. It's also a habit of being economical. Learning to be economical comes through avoiding waste, which automatically results in efficiency. Successful people avoid overspending. Instead, they comparison shop and negotiate. The result is financial success. Rising early. The more time one can devote to being successful, the more likely successful result. Successful people are accustomed to rising early, and that habit repeatedly appears among those who do well in life. Early risers have a massive membership among successful people. A few notable that includes Sir Richard Branson of Virgin Group, Disney CEO Robert Iger, former Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer. Sharing donation to charity or the sharing of ideas. Successful people have a habit of giving. Some of the most well-known successful philanthropists, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Mark Zuckerberg, they give up a lot of what they have to help other people. Lack of wealth does not need to be a factor when it comes to sharing. Volunteering in your community or at a local school does not cost anything, but could provide help where it's needed most. Reading. It's important to know that successful people read. While they read for pleasure, most use their reading habits as a means to gain knowledge or insight. And Mark Cuban is one of those people who fits into that category. Okay? So how many of those you think you fall into?
A few. Frugality is definitely not one of mine. Relaxation, yes, definitely like that. I do get up early and I do go to the gym. About that taking care and time, something that I'm very jealous of in guarding my time is on Friday afternoons. I don't like to stay late on Friday. Like to get home, and my wife and I go to our favorite restaurant to go eat and hang out and just the two of us.
And that's the relaxation part of it. You know when to, and you plan for it. It doesn't mean
But you got to guard that time jealously.
Exactly. That doesn't mean you got to relax every day, because there are certain things you can do. But that's the one thing you said, that's the thing apart for you and for your wife and your care and your family. That means you can get rid of all of the other stuff. You focus on that. Then when you get ready to focus, guess what? They're not mad at you because you've ignored them.
Yeah, but it took a long time to get there because I was so focused on my career because, frankly, I was lazy early on, and having to make up for lost time eats up time. And the people who pay for that time are your family.
Exactly. But that's
so you can work hard and be successful. They pay for that.
And that's why families, I think, are probably the most important part of everyone's success. You have to take care of family, and family has to take care of you. I have a philosophy in life.
60% given, 40% taken.
Yep, you put 60% in, but you can only take 40% out of life. That doesn't matter what you do. That 20% difference is a difference of people. A difference of perspective. Your mom's Catholic, right? And I'm Baptist. Did that keep us from getting married? No, it didn't. Where did we get married at? In a Baptist church.
Did that? You did.
You know, those are examples of that 20% difference of, you know, I've always believed that life, work, whatever it is you do in life is 60-40. You got to put 60% into it, but you can only take 40% out. And that 20% difference is perceptions of a lot of different things. Yeah. So what else? See, I think you're a good organizer. I think you're good at taking action.
Yeah, I have no problem taking action.
I think your personal care. I think you're taking care of yourself and all those around you.
I try to get to the gym on a regular basis.
You have a positive attitude. You like to
network. Sometimes.
You do. But that doesn't mean you're all that giddy all the time.
No, you're right. It is about a positive mental attitude. If everything is bad, then everything's going to be bad.
The one person I think of in that is Andrea Asura. She is my best friend as far as work goes and outside of work and stuff. And the first time I met her was when I first went to work with Whataburger. She was doing the orientation. She is just a phenomenal lady, has achieved so much and has affected so many people. I think you're frugal in what you do. I don't think you're stingy.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're frugal in what you do. You're not stingy, but you are thrifty about what you do. Whenever we go on a trip, I don't have to worry about how much money we're going to spend because I know it's not going to be excessive. I know it's going to meet our needs, but it's not going to be excessive. You know, make decisions of what's good. And that one last trip when we had the car that was electric, and that goes to quick decision making. Very quickly, you realize it wasn't going to work for us, right?
No. And I didn't want it to struggle the whole way, trying to find a place to charge, forgetting how to start the car. Dad, we couldn't even get that car started.
Yeah. And guess what? I think there's been a little frugal in that too. It wasn't stingy, but we didn't waste any money by it, did we? And
Yeah, we
because
did.
of your attitude and being able to network and talk to people, we got a pretty good size discount when we turned the car back in, unknown to us what was going to happen.
True.
I think you're an early riser.
Didn't always start out that way.
And I think you are a good reader. I think you read a lot.
Oh, that I do like to do. I
You
love
have
to read.
a wide vocabulary of reading, not just one or two little things and stuff like this.
You know who I owe that all to? The reading and the vocabulary.
Your mom.
You got it.
Yeah. And you can also,
She read so many books when we were living in Japan. She read almost like a book a day sometimes.
and you can give that to your grandmother Chauvinot. She was a ferocious reader. The one thing that she always read, and we used to take it too, was Reader's Digest.
That is a great little book to read.
Yes, it was. And she always was reading about the words and definitions in her vocabulary. And that's a trait that your mom has. She taught you guys how to read and how to speak.
Didn't learn it from you.
She didn't sound like me, where I come from in that part of the country and those kind of things. So I think you're good at sharing.
Sometimes.
Actually, that's 9 of the 10. The only one I didn't mark and check off for was the the relaxation part.
No, I have no problem relaxing.
Yeah. So those are the 10 habits. And when you start thinking about all those people we just talked about, Martin Luther King, I would have to go back and look at him, but I can tell you based on what I've seen from him, he shares those same traits. Because when you're looking at this, you can't look at it from a nuts and bolts perspective. You got to look at it from a different perspective. You got to open it up and look at what they're doing. And you can see all those, that's when we're successful.
You're right.
So how do you break a bad habit?
Hard work.
Okay. Breaking a bad habit may be just as beneficial as setting a new positive habit. To break a habit, identify your routine and understand what triggers the bad habit. Consider ways to reward yourself for not doing something, and do your best to navigate around the cues you identified often lead to the bad habit being done. So the bottom line, most people have habits. Some are positive, some are not. Successful people tend to have more other kinds of habits that contribute to their success. So that's kind of what I was looked at. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is.
It's a little bit long, but we can have some more conversation along this line next week.
Yeah, as long as you're not as full of crap on some of that stuff.
I can speak positive from experience.
Yeah, out of all of the things that we've talked about, and I mean, this is kind of the same thing on a lot of them, but it's how I phrase it. I try to tell everybody, and it has to, especially when you're in times of crisis or, like the shit's hitting the proverbial fan. I try to tell everybody like that confidence is contagious. And if, you show confidence, everyone around you is going to calm down. You're going to lower the temperature in the room because they want to be confident.
Exactly.
So you've got to project that air of confidence, whether you're shaking in your boots or not, when you have to make those decisions.
You're exactly right. And they'll take their cue from you, and they'll rise up to the occasion based off of their perception of the leader.
Keep your head while everybody's losing theirs.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, anyway, we'll do some more research on this, and I'm very interested in what you're talking about on the Black History Month and the Tuskegee Airmen. I'm going to do some more research next week.
Yeah, you know what? Do some research into them, and then look into the Buffalo Soldiers.
My memory is not as good as it used to be.
Another famous Army unit, the Buffalo Soldiers. Legendary.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right.
Well, just a little bit over, about 47 minutes now. But
we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it did. And it was fun looking up and researching some of this stuff.
Yeah, and I hope this can be a benefit to some people. And maybe now that we can maybe have some more focus in this podcast and maybe get more than 10 people listening at a time.
And and you mentioned last week about one of your friends. I'm going to reach out to him, sir, because we had Uncle Bobby on, who's a very successful person. We can have some more people on here that can talk about some of the things that.
And I need to finish the episode of the podcast for Bill Huff in real estate, because that's something that I'd like to get more interested in and make my money work for me through that realm.
Okay.
I need to listen to that some more before I reach out to him and see if he wants to come on and talk. And maybe we can have, like a separate little weekly series with him apart from this. Who knows,
Sounds
Because
good.
it's all about cross-branding.
Totally agree.
All right.
All right. I'm going to go eat some more chocolate pudding. Your mother would make you say pudding, but it's pudding.
Yep, it's pudding.
All right. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
All right. Y'all take care, everybody.
Bye.
Love you guys.
See ya.
See ya.